So, it took me a long time, but I've finally seen that Elton John musical, and it rocks. ROCKETMAN is directed by Dexter Fletcher from a script by Lee Hall and stars Taron Egerton as Elton John in this musical biopic, except it's not really a musical biopic as we know them, it's much more of a musical fantasy. And that is the first and foremost reason why I loved this movie. See, biographic films that are about musicians or music tend to be kind of stale, I find. They kind of just rehash all of the band or the singer's biggest hits and kind of just play them in a concert format as they travel through the life of that person or persons from point A to point B, kind of showing all the shit that happened in between, all of the successes, all of the failures, and they kind of tend to draw the same conclusions. But not ROCKETMAN. ROCKETMAN does things really differently by actually choosing a framing device that allows it to just jump between certain points in Elton John's history and then bring them back to the present, or at least where the film selects as being the present, and kind of dissect them and break them down from Elton John's point of view. This idea of reflecting on your past and kind of breaking it down and looking at it to try to work out why you ended up the way you are is something that I think not only really resonated with me, but I feel like that's a far more provocative message to put across to the audience. And what I really appreciate is that Elton John, who is still alive, let this film go where it did. Musical biopics about people that have passed, and just biopics in general, can often be hampered by that person or the family of that person that does not want them presented in certain ways. But I like the fact that Elton John was like, no, you know what? I did a lot of drugs, I had a lot of sex, I had lived a pretty messed up life in the 70s and 80s, and let's actually use that as almost a cautionary tale. And the fact that the movie goes to those places and doesn't really shy away from anything in his life, including his sexuality, was something that I really appreciated. Now really, I have to talk about how good Taron Egerton is in this movie. It might be one of the best performances I've seen this year so far, and it is outright his best performance. He really evokes Elton John, and I'm not someone who is overly familiar with him. I am familiar with his music, but I think he really captured the sense of what the character needed to be for this movie, and the fact that he does all of his own singing just makes it even more incredible. He's a very compelling central character, even though from pretty much the get-go, we understand a lot of shit has gone down in his life, and the film will continue to address that, but it's actually a testament to Egerton's performance that he manages to find almost kind of this underlying level of sadness that makes him utterly compelling from start to finish. Bryce Dallas Howard, Richard Madden, and Jamie Bell also do some of their career best work, so I've got to mention them too. I think the real star of this movie, though, is actually Dexter Fletcher's direction. It's bold and crazy and over the top and a little bit messy, but I think that all actually works in the film's favor. Lee Hall's script constantly tries to crack into the right ideas, I think, that should have been tackled with Elton John. I think the script does a fantastic job of setting the stage, but I don't think this film would have been anywhere near as magical if Dexter Fletcher had not gone so completely out there with the way he delivered this movie. Honestly, there's a sense of euphoria that just kind of radiates from this entire movie because it's crackling with such a visceral energy. And yes, it is messy sometimes, and I think it's a very imperfect movie, but because of the type of movie it is and because of the type of subject matter that it is handling, that imperfection actually works in its favor and makes it better, if that makes sense. I also just love that Elton's music here is used as a storytelling device and not just something that punctuates the story. The film doesn't work like story, song, song. The music is actually embedded into the characters and in the way the story progresses, where some scenes will just remove a dialogue exchange and replace it with a duet of one of Elton's songs, or it will turn into almost a monologue performed by Taron as Elton. And I think that that is a far more exciting way to approach music in a movie like this. And it also really aids in this fantasy element. A lot of this film is kind of, I don't know, it's just magic, I guess. I think the whole film is kind of magic, and I think that's why, as far as musical biopics go, this is one of the better ones, because it harnesses that crazy energy and that euphoria of Elton's music. And I think as far as films like this go that are almost a testament to the artist, they don't really get much better than this one. So those were my thoughts on ROCKETMAN. Have you seen it yet? Did you like it? Did you hate it? Did you like this video? Well, of course you did. You can subscribe to this channel down there somewhere, as well as my other channel, Loverboy Media, over there somewhere. You can follow me on Twitter at Loverboy Media and on Instagram at Breaking Banter. And if you really want to help support this channel, you can support on Patreon. Thank you so much to everyone who is doing that already. You are all amazing. Everyone that watches these videos is amazing, and I will see you all in the next one.